On a Friday morning all week long, I've been working on assembling the list of President Trump's accomplishments. President Trump's record of accomplishments is pretty easy to compile. Most significantly, he has brought the existential threat posed by the Chinese Communist Party into the sunlight. No more nice words. No more treating the Tiananmen Square massacre as a bug, not a feature. The concentration camps for 1 million Uyghurs in Xinjiang glanced off American consciousness until recently. But when ESPN is reporting on the routine cruelties of the NBA basketball camps run in China, the light is definitely on. Trump pulled that cord. Trump put 2 justices on the Supreme Court, 53 on the Federal Court of Appeals, 144 and counting on the district courts, more than 20 on the specialty courts. The Constitution has been buttressed. Trump's tax cuts, along with the massive deregulation he orchestrated, led to 3.5% unemployment until the Beijing regime acted with criminal recklessness towards a virus that has devastated the world. Economic recovery depends on those rule rollbacks and not just the absurdities like the Clean Power Plan and the waters of the United States' grotesque overreaches into private businesses and onto private property of Americans, but on hundreds of other intrusions by way of fine print. Trump took a military operating in the President Obama's last year on $662 billion and moved that budget by his third year to $721 billion, with more in the budget coming soon. His Navy, necessary to meet China on the high seas, all 355 ships of it, is being planned and built. Trump tore up the so-called Iran deal, which was a tower of absurd hopes built on a policy of appeasement and a foundation of hostility to Israel. Trump moved the American embassy to Jerusalem and blessed Israel's necessary annexation of the Golan Heights. His peace plan is the closest to reality since Oslo. Trump took the U.S. out of the idiotic Paris Accords and is instead focused on and delivered American energy independence. People are at work in Pennsylvania as a result, not jutting off to Paris for follow-up seminars. Trump ordered Iran's master terrorist General Soleimani killed, and that followed his ordering of the complete physical destruction of the ISIS caliphate and the hunting down of the terrorist chieftain Baghdadi. The former was never contemplated by Obama. The latter couldn't get done by him, even though it was Obama's scampering from Iraq in 2011 that led to the rise of ISIS and its 1,000 barbarities. The butcher Assad has twice used chemical weapons, twice had cruise missiles remind him that the red line is back and it is real. Russian mercenaries attacked U.S. troops in Syria, and they were mowed down. Not an American was killed. Those are Trump rules of engagement. Even Cuba is back in its box, joined there by Venezuela's dictator Maduro. At home, Trump pushed through long overdue justice reform legislation and the reorganization of the Veterans Administration. And this year, the Great American Outdoors Act that fully funds the Land and Water Conservation Fund. House Democrats passed a piffling bill when COVID-19 arrived, while Trump and the Senate Republicans, led by Mitch McConnell, crafted the Paycheck Protection Plan and other innovations that kept Americans' economy from collapsing, even as it contracted by nearly 10% in the second quarter as the PRC's principal export, COVID, ravaged the country. Suddenly, borders mattered, and Trump's wall on its way to completion makes obvious sense. Trump negotiated and saw ratified the USMCA. From dairy farms in Wisconsin to border businesses in Arizona, USMCA was a huge win for the U.S. Trump doesn't want to deport the Dreamers and won't, but his deals with Mexico, El Salvador, and Guatemala have helped stem the flow of illegal entries into the United States that Obama was helpless to halt. While establishing himself as the most accessible to the press president in modern times, Trump has also stripped off the veneer activity from the fake news. Blue bubble journalists are the last to know the contempt in which they are held beyond the Acela corridor and outside Silicon Valley and Hollywood. They mistake their 1 or 2% audience share for success. In fact, 95% of America would rather watch a mystery poetry slam than their news. Contempt defines Main Street attitudes towards cable news and pundits. Trump hammered that home, and journalists hate him for it. Blue check Twitter confirms the contempt that elites feel for more than half of America. Trump's brawling, slugging, tempestuous approach to everything and every hour has worn down many, but his road is marked by accomplishment after accomplishment. Former Vice President Biden's nearly 50-year run is marked by, well, you fill that in. Polls say Biden is far ahead. We will see. There's an aesthetic critique of Trump that has persuaded elites he must be beaten, that he is cruel and beneath the office. But Americans want their jobs and security back. They like the police. And yes, most of the time, they mostly admire Trump's styles and almost always his results. I'm Hugh Hewitt. I'll be right back.